Hey Chantella, I've decided to do your answers in a video. If you don't like it, tell me and I can try to transcribe. Describe your career journey. So, like most 20-year-olds, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, and I went into hotel and restaurant management. My mom, just to give you a little bit of background, worked 3 jobs. So after my parents divorced, my sisters and I could go to college because she realized that college education was extremely important for women to have independence and to be able to take care of themselves, whatever life threw at them. So she worked really hard, including having cancer and still working and so forth, and all of that good stuff. So I went to college, hotel restaurant management, moved to Chicago from Houston, worked at the highest revenue generating Hilton Hotel, had 300 people in the lobby yelling and screaming, looking for bags, and I was a hotel, not an airline. But anyway, it taught me a lot about customer service and resilience and how to stay calm in chaos. I think were the kind of lessons learned there. From there, I went to work for the executive chef of Continental Airlines. I worked at Continental for 10 years. And I learned about food and beverage, design, sourcing, procurement, logistics, catering, all kinds of things, airlines operations, safety, across the board, international, global importing. And really it was before anything was called supply chain, but it was really my first job in supply chain. Absolute coolest job I ever had. But the chef was kind of like the Hell's Kitchen chef, even though we're still friends today. So a bit of a challenge, but I mean, at like mid-20s, traveling for $70, working for a chef, designing menus, drinking wine and coffee, like you can't really complain too much, even though I'm sure I did. From there, I went and worked at a couple of different companies. I worked at Comcast in finance, also doing some FP&A work and logistics, fleet, damage claims, and procurement. I went to Cisco Foods and did sourcing for categories of spend for like desserts and cakes for Sara Lee and others that we were sourcing, and there were billion-dollar categories, and was launching a new program. What I learned from that role was how to negotiate with, empathy, right? And to make a win-win situation for both. And years later, one of my vendors came back to me and offered me an opportunity to work for them at a small consulting role because of how I did it and how he remembered the way that I conducted the business, even though it was really tough because Cisco was basically saying win everything or lose. Which could impact his business significantly. I worked at Toyota Friedkin Group. They're a distributor for Toyota and supply chain. That's where I first got into kind of analytics, supplier risk and scorecarding, and found that data was definitely a problem in supply chain. So there I would do supplier scorecards and spend analysis, and my peer would be like, oh, FedEx spend is, $6 million, and I would have 3 million, and he had added it twice in his pivot, right? And mine was correct and his wasn't. So again, just building skills and leadership. My last role in industry before I transitioned into consulting 3 years ago was for Cornerstone Building Brands. I was a director of supply chain and then a director of analytics and automation for IT. It was the first time I was in IT. But going back to supply chain, basically we have 30 ERPs and we had no database, and we did everything in Excel, and we couldn't get visibility. And so we transitioned to Tableau. It wasn't a good experience because people with Excel couldn't use it. So we quickly moved to Power BI. That's when I became a seller of Microsoft without working for Microsoft, because you could easily train, new analysts into from Excel to Power BI. And I was definitely a fan of being able to be independent from IT and being able to launch my own tools for supply chain. Did a fleet, logistics, P&Ls, sourcing, S&OP, all within Power Platform. And then the CFO asked me to come run a new center of excellence in IT for analytics and automation. And I was like, sure, why the heck not? So I did that and became a customer of Microsoft's, and really leaned into, their experience and expertise, and became an even bigger fan of them. From there, came to consulting. It's been quite a challenging transition. People have been in industry, are like, why is she going to consulting after 25 years? And people in consulting, why is she coming into consulting after 25 years? But I just find that the same as in my career, that relationships are key to consulting, like they were when I was an industry leader. I am most proud in my career that the team I built at Cornerstone and IT is still together today. And most of the structure and leadership I set up is still there today. I believe that people and relationships make a big difference. And what I told my team, and I still live by that today, is that, there's two keys to success: good relationships and getting stuff done. Oh, and you have to have some fun. And so those all have to be done together to be a successful team. And so I try to bring that into consulting now. And so try to be very authentic and real. But I know if we don't get stuff done, people aren't going to want to continue to work with us and have those relationships. And you know what? Life is stressful. Let's have a little bit of fun. So those continue to guide me as a consultant. What piece of career advice have you stuck with over the years? Relationships. I didn't know it was my superpower until I was an entrepreneur in consulting and was told by somebody I'd worked with that, I still had relationships from, Hilton hotels and Continental Airlines, and I could call people and they would pick up the phone from years ago. And I just think it's key. It's key to life and work. And so I think that is the one thing I will say. You hear the old adage, don't burn bridges. Really don't burn bridges. Because you may have to walk across them. One of the first clients I spoke to here at Avanade was one of my former employers, and I was able to go back in and make a good impression, right? So I think that it's extremely important that you maintain relationships, and you have to do that by being authentically you and getting stuff done and having integrity. What was a defining moment you knew you were in the right role or path? I don't know if I've ever thought I was in the right role or path. I think the reason that I like supply chain so much is that there's always a problem to solve, and it's about connection. So supply chain in the past has not been a function. It's been different roles. You'd have an inventory manager at the warehouse. You'd have someone who bought the goods. You'd have someone who would source the contracts, and you'd have someone to move the widget around. And because it's now become this group, it's about connection. And so I think that's, kind of when I realized I was in the right area, which is supply chain operations, because I like to problem solve. I like to connect people and process and technology. And so to me, that's my happy place, when I can bring the three together, come up with a solution that works for where the client is at today, and helps them get to the, goal, the North Star, the glory of what they're trying to get to at the end, and get them there, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, whatever you want to call it. What is a habit or mindset shift that has been the biggest impact on your success? So I'm an empty nester, and I think, with hindsight being 2020, for years we talked about work-life balance. My mom worked 3 jobs, but still knew where we were 99% of the time. And I don't know if that gave her balance. Probably gave her a lot of headaches. But she did it because it was important to her, right? It was her values. And so I think that the most important thing is harmony. That sometimes if you're in a new job, that's going to take more of your time and effort, or you have a new child or a new relationship, or you're moving, or you have health issues. And don't be so hard on yourself. Like, give yourself grace to flex life as you need it. If you do a good job at work, it should be able to flex. If you do a good job at home, it should be able to flex. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and we need to connect, and we need to make sure that both sides of our life, personal and work, are in harmony. And so I would always take time to see when you're feeling that you're too busy, or life is chaotic, what you can do to ease that a bit. Because if work is in a very high stressful period of time, you're starting out new in a career or whatever, then you need to maybe get some more support at home, maybe a housekeeper, or, ask family or friends or something for support there. Working hard is something that my mom taught me. She was a 2-time breast cancer survivor. She's extremely strong. In fact, at 80, she's in a wheelchair. And when I saw her last, she was arm wrestling me. And she's like, I'm strong. And I was like, nobody who's ever met you would not think you're strong. And I hope what people know about me is that I'm also tenacious and strong and dedicated, but I do it with integrity and having a little bit of fun to make life and work balance. No, harmony. It's so hard because you want to say balance, but it's really not. What makes Avanade unique? So Avanade is unique because we are in the new horizon trying to bring in a little bit more of the Accenture into the Avanade space. And so that's when I was hired. And so the idea is to have that consulting arm, not just the technology arm. And so because I felt the pain of business leaders as of 2 years ago going through COVID, I was leading supply chain for a manufacturing company. I get it. I understand. If you're in Excel chaos, I get it. If you've got a really good system you just rolled out and you're feeling the comfort of that, I get it. I want to meet you where you're at and be your partner to where you want to go. And I'm not, wanting to sell you anything that isn't going to actually impact your bottom line and your people in a positive manner. And so I think Avanade is not just a technology firm. We're an advisory firm too that can help you solve your business challenges. So not just implement technology. A lot of companies can do that, right? Good or not good is, maybe subjective, maybe not by the client's perspective. But at the end of the day, we want to look at your business problem and make sure that technology even aligns to your business problem. Are we implementing the right technology at the right time, considering the people and where you're at on a maturity scale of whatever it is we're looking to implement? One thing I'll also mention is at Cisco, I was also part of the ERP rollout for SAP, which didn't go so well. And what I learned from that is technology is enabling people in process, right? And it is not what comes first, it comes last. You have to make sure your people are ready, that the processes are stable and are good best practices for technology. And I think when you keep the 3 of those in mind and you give them all equal amounts of time and effort, any technology solution can be rolled out successfully. And I think Avanade is the right partner to have those conversations with clients who maybe have been burned before or concerned about the journey, and contact us and let us help you get there.